Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan Steele, and I will be your nerd today, or tonight, or this afternoon, or this morning, or any other time that you've decided to watch one of my weird episodes, this one in particular. So, today's going to be a strange episode. I know last week I really kind of waxed poetic about the generosity of others, and hopefully to instill some generosity in you as a gamer, as a person, whatever. Just kind of throwing some positivity around there. But the last 2 weeks have been tumultuous, we'll say. That's a great word. Now, first and foremost, everybody in the family is healthy. Nobody's sick, or nobody has caught the Rona or anything like that. Everyone's doing good. As good as we do on any given day. A few things have reared their ugly head as the definition of being as part of a first world nation, I suppose. The roof to our mud room has revealed a leak right before we go into the coldest part of winter, and it's leaking directly into our pantry storage. So need to get somebody out here before it gets crazy snowy Midwest madness to fix the roof. And then on top of that, due to errors of my former accountant, and I say former because I had been with my accountant for almost 10 years, and I loved her to death. She She left her agency and went on her own, and really screwed up some things this year. One of those things was, sadly, myself and my wife's joint taxes. Taxes are never a fun thing for the Steele family because, as an independent contractor, as a self-employed person, I don't really pay taxes during the year. I'm supposed to, but I use that money to, keep the leaky roof over our head. And then so at the end of the year, we, have a bunch of deductions because of owning our own business, and, Natalie's illness and medical bills and blah, 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 all that stuff. And for the most part, it's always been my wife gets a return, and then I pay for the whole year. I pay my taxes on the back year. Well, we had an accountant basically tell us, why don't you guys do it joint? You should come out ahead. And so we crunched the numbers, and it was true. It actually worked out in our favor. Well, fast forward a handful of months, some quarantine months, some COVID issues, and an accountant that had gotten in over her head when she left her former business. And we ended up having to pay a second person to get it taken care of, re-amend the tax statements, resubmit them, and then actually just a couple days ago we found out that we could not submit them electronically because it was an amendment. So we had to print everything out and send it in via regular everyday snail mail, which costs more and takes longer before we get our tax returns back. It's a thing. Again, I smile because it's first world problems. None of us are sick. None of us are dying or being arrested. I still have a really good job. I can't really fuss about it, aside from the fact that I wish it was better. And by eliminating these problems one at a time, it will get better. That being said, at all of this same time, the engine in my car blew up. we are a one-car household. We have one SUV for our family, and the engine gave up the ghost. Cracked head gasket, metal filings in the radiator. It's awful. It's bad. it's bad all around, and very expensive. Now, we're being taken care of. It's not cheap, and we've had to make some decisions as a family to make that work. And the service place, the place is actually replacing the engine. I am going to sneeze. Oh man. Woo. The place that I am getting the new engine for us, the dealership, they've given us a loaner car to get around, so we're not like, stuck in the house. I mean, more so than the quarantine already is. Like we're stuck in the house, but like if we need to get groceries, we can, or if we have to, take the dogs to the vet, we can. That kind of thing. Like there's still things we can do, because we needed that. It was getting pretty rough there for a couple days. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of like homeowner first world problems, all stacked in us all at once. But that being said, professionally and as a gamer, things have been really good. Things have been crazy good for the last week or so. And it's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to focus. Today's episode, you saw when you saw the thumbnail, is ups and downs, is the ups and downs. As a freelancer, or really anybody in our industry, things tend to generally be on the extreme. Whether it is I've got no work whatsoever and things are, purse strings are starting to get, pretty thin and the coffers are light, or I've got people asking, oh, I got eyelash in my eye. Or you've got people asking for, still got an eyelash in my eye. You guys get all the great video footage, sneezes, eyelashes, great. But it's you get all those little ups and downs. And when that stuff happens, you got to learn to roll with it. You got to learn to, prepare for the next. If you're on an up high, keep in mind something bad could happen. Something, you've got to remember that the valley could be nearby. Prepare yourself if you can. Stockpile some cash. Save some favors off to the side. If someone has a contract for you and they're like, it's not hard pressed, there's no real hard crush deadline, and you go, hey, can we put it out a month? It's not only just to save your sanity, but it's also to potentially give you a better stretch on your paydays, because a lot of places won't pay until you're done, which makes sense, obviously. And if that's the case, if you can tell them, hey, rather than busting my butt and get it done in this month, can we scoot it out a month? Not only is that giving me more time to get things done and do them right and not rush through them, but it also means that you can expect those paydays a little further on, so that if for some reason nothing comes in that time, that you've got that payday coming. So that's today's episode. It is about the ups and downs, and like I just listed a bunch of our downs, which it is what it is. A long time ago, over a year ago, I started a GoFundMe for our back medical bills when things got really bad for us, and basically Natalie's emergency room trips caught up with us all at once. And I was not getting steady gigs. She obviously was not working because she was in recoup. It was rough. So I did what a lot of the people in my industry have turned to do, is basically turn to the kindness of others and say, hey, if you've ever been in a situation where someone has helped you out, you know how this feels. And when the car gave up, when I got the bill for the car, that was the line that I was like, you know what, I haven't really talked about the GoFundMe publicly in a long time. we could probably use some help. And so I went ahead and went back into the GoFundMe service to try and reactivate that link, and found out that if you have a GoFundMe, which is, I'm going to let you guys know, apparently if you have a GoFundMe that is dormant for more than years and no activity, no one gave any money, no one took any money out, whatever, for over a year, they shut it down. It's still there. People can still read it. They can still look at it, but they can't actually donate to it. You can't actually access it. It automatically dumps the whatever was remaining in the account into your account, and then is like, see you later. So I had to start a new one. So the address that I put in the description of this video and in several other videos is the new GoFundMe address. If you are feeling generous and you want to help out in some way, I would obviously never say no. And in all honesty, anything will help, because the engine is expensive and the hospitals are still asking for their pound of flesh, so to speak. But yeah, so that's one thing that I know a lot of freelancers in the industry have turned to, is various crowdsourcing and GoFundMes, and trying to find, if in the case of, we looked up several charities for Natalie's illness, and sadly they did not really apply. A lot of the charities for myasthenia gravis are not helping people charities. They're more along the lines of trying to find better medicines, better cure, trying better ways of putting into remission, that kind of thing. So that is what it is. But we looked for that, and we've done what we can, and for the most part we're in good shape. It's just every once in a while when something, when a snowball happens, roof, dogs, hospitals, car, all at once, things get a little tight, get a little hectic. And for the people who have already contributed when I posted up the link, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. As like, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but you know who you are, and we love you. It is always astonishing to see what people are willing to do to help when they can, and in no way, shape, or form is this a way to guilt others in. You're like, if you didn't, you are a scoundrel. That's not remotely the case. It is simply, we all know that we all know that we all have lives, and we all have stuff that we have to prioritize, and we have to, I look forward to eventually being back into a position where I can donate to my friends' GoFundMes to help them. Currently I'm not in that position because, car, roof, dogs, medical. It's like a little checklist of things. But it doesn't mean that life does not move on, and that we aren't still having a good time. Let's see. Since we spoke last, I played a really good, had a really cool session of my my friend's D&D game in his world, where I'm playing the capoeira monk. From my DM's Guild product, which you should buy if you're a DM fan. Link in the description. But we had a really good session where we were looking for, we were kind of at a not a standstill, but kind of a crossroads, where we had multiple jobs that we could, as kind of adventurers for hire, looking, we could look into these things, and one of them really stood out as the more good-natured thing to do. One was hunting a monster that was, terrifying supply lines, but not really doing anything else. It lives in the swamp, meh. And then there was another one that was, it's actively stopping this city from building its, coastal protection lighthouse, and that other adventuring teams have gone and tried to, deal with this problem, and were dealt with harshly. People have lost their lives, and more importantly, it had to deal with the undead. And a lot of us in that particular D&D group, a lot of our adventurers we have that kind of view of, it's when you're trying to weigh the moral compass. Some of the members of the group have no moral compass, but when you're trying to weigh out what's right and what's wrong, it's pretty easy. When someone's like, well, one side's summoning a bunch of skeletons that are dragging people to their deaths when they get on the beach. That's the bad guy. So we decided to go try and deal with this island, and it put us in a rough fight. Like, we have been tested and tried several times before. This was hard. There were people that were swinging rough on us, and if it wasn't for some good dice and decent D&D tactics on our part, most notably, I gotta say, my friend Bryan, he's playing a druid, and I want to say it's his first druid, but he has masterfully picked how to use summoning to summon monsters, to summon creatures, summon animals. Like he summoned a saber-toothed cat and then a giant anaconda, like at the perfect times. Like, it's one of those that this thing has reach and blind sense, so it can see the invisible guy before it runs to the door. This thing has an attack that will knock people over, and these guys, when they're prone, we're beating the crap out of them. He's really, like, as a combatant character, tactically, he's learning how to use his magic seriously, like a strategist, and it's awesome. I dig it. And it really did. It was a tough fight. It was a hard fight. At least one of us almost died. Saved at the last, last death save kind of thing. And we ended the session after basically the last guy standing, the last member of this undead cult thing, threw down his swords and was like, you guys have killed all of my friends. Our wizard buddy vanished. I don't know where he went. I don't want to die for this. And so we get to start the next session with a questioning discussion, and that's always been a really cool thing, because I don't know if for you D&D players out there, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where your players immediately are like, we've captured them, so either just kill him outright, or let's torture him to see what he does. And a lot of role-playing systems do not have alignments for a reason, because alignments kind of don't make sense unless you're really kind of playing up a high fairy tale fantasy style thing where it's like you're bound by what your soul, guides you to do. But D&D does have alignments, and you've got to pay attention to that. And that has always been a fun conversation, a role-playing moment between a group where you get one person that's like, we should just kill him and be done with it, and you get the other guy that's like, hang on, let me get my toolkit and fire up the fireplace to get the poker red hot, because we're going to find out what this guy knows. And then you've got characters like mine that are like, no, he surrendered, he's our prisoner. At best, we tie him up and we take him back to the constables. At worst, he forces our hand, and we have to start a new combat with him. But we don't just murder him straight away, and we definitely don't, resort to torture. That's evil. And so it'll be a cool way of a cool scene right at the very beginning of the next session this weekend. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Let's see, what else? Played a little bit of Xbox. I played a little bit of Cyberpunk 2077. I'm really enjoying that game. It's pretty immersive. There's a lot going on. One of the things that I enjoy is basically your hacker vision, like where you kind of look at everybody through your cyber deck, and you can kind of see what's going on, and like measure, see who this person works for, gotta read their SIM card kind of thing. But what I don't like is that for whatever reason, even though they're still paying me from time to time, and I haven't done anything wrong aside from a couple of gunfights, the cops, no matter where I go, if I'm on the screen with them more than 10 seconds, they'll draw guns and start shooting at me like I'm like public enemy number one. So that's kind of annoying. I'm hoping that maybe eventually that'll stop. The more bounties I bring in, the more little missions I do for them, maybe they'll eventually stop shooting me in the street. But it's a fun game. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a great deal. I don't get to play it very often because I've got 2 kids that are just not old enough to really deal with some of the situations that are in that game. Some of the scenes that are in that game are just a little bit too adult for them. So I have to wait until they've gone to bed or they're not home in order to play. Combine that with one of the reasons why I've got ups in this ups and downs, and I haven't gotten very far in the game. Also been playing a lot of Star Wars Squadrons, flying game for the Xbox. It was a Christmas present from my dear friend Bryan. Thank you, Bryan. And he and I meet every other Wednesday to play Xbox. He lives elsewhere in the country. This is our way of... He's one of my best friends in the whole wide world, and we used to be thick as thieves when he lived here in Lafayette, when he was still going to school. When we were still students, or he was a student and I was working, or whatever, basically while we lived together, we became very, very close. And then after he was done with his grad degree, he eventually, got married, moved away for jobs and whatever. And for a while there, we really did kind of not talk to each other, just not on purpose, just distance and not a lot going on. And then there was a group of us that every Monday night we would get together and play Halo. Halo 3, I think. Halo 2? Halo 3? I don't remember. But we had Monday Night Halo. It was like Friday Night Magic at the game store, except over Xbox. And at one point, we got up to like 10 or 12 people that would get together every Monday night to play Halo. And we would play for hours on end and have a great time. And it was through that I reconnected with Bryan. We were playing one day, and I looked at the Xbox things, and I was like, wait, I know who that is. I was like, oh my god, how are you doing? And we hooked back up, and then shortly after that, we started making plans for the gaming conventions that were nearby one of us. We would try and travel to go see the other person. Gen Con, Origins. These were places that we could get together for a couple of days and hang out and really enjoy each other's company and have a great time, food, drinks, games, just like it was back in college. And then at the end of the convention, off they go. But we decided that we were going to continue to, stay connected. And so every other Wednesday we play Xbox, and the games change, whether it's Plants vs. Zombies or Sea of Thieves or Star Wars Battlefront 2 or Necromunda or whatever our game of choice is at the time. We get together every other Wednesday night, and it's kind of our way of staying connected. And we, heck, not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, we actually only played for like a half an hour, and then we actually stayed on headsets, staring at the home screen, but talking for like another hour. It's a really nice way of staying connected. Again, games make friends and makes being friendly easier. So yay, games. So he and I have been playing. So we playing this new Squadrons game. It's really good. It reminds me, for anybody who used to play the really old X-Wing versus TIE Fighter games, it reminds me of those. Yeah, obviously you have more ships and more options and better graphics and better controls and all that stuff, but it's very similar in the way that you are a pilot and you are put into missions, very specific missions. And if you're playing the story, you bounce back and forth between Imperial to Rebels to, like, you're going. I'm assuming eventually this will take us into like the First Order or the Resistance. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't gotten that far yet. But you can modify your spaceship. So like there's like little dangly bits, like a little hanging wampa or fuzzy dice or whatever. Obviously, you can change your color and your hull and your shields and your guns and all. You can really personalize your ship. But inside the cockpit, you can also change things. You can add little doodads and fun stuff to your what you're seeing when you're flying around. It's again fun game. But yeah, so I've been doing that, and then I have a pipe dream secret project that I'm also working on. That I do when I'm sitting in the living room and hanging out with the family, because it doesn't take a whole lot of. I mean, it takes some brain power, but it doesn't take like work level, brain power to do. And I'm hoping if anything comes out of this, anything at all, it will probably be nothing. But eventually, even if it is nothing, and the company who I'm potentially doing this for decides that they don't want it, I will probably compile it, put it together in a big, one giant Word document, and put it up just for free for everyone to, have and enjoy and, get giggles out of. I don't know. We'll see. So I've been doing that a lot in my spare time, but we're wanted to talk about the ups and downs. I've talked a bunch about my downs. My ups professionally have been huge. Let's see. The next Shadowrun contract, or the next Shadowrun novel contract, has been signed, so it's a done deal. We're going to do it. I have a meeting scheduled with the person who's going to help me with figuring out what my outline is going to be for that book, and then I can dive in and start working on it. I'm excited about that. I've got a bunch of kind of loose ideas and scenes that I've been sort of jotting down jotting down and keeping in mind for when I do my next Shadowrun book. So I'm excited to see some of those come to life on the page, kind of thing. So there's that. I'm about ready to finish a pretty important segment of the Spycraft stuff that we're working on. So I'll put the Facebook page in the description of the video, but it's officially been announced. So Cursed Empires, which is a role-playing game setting from years and years and years ago that I did a bunch of writing for. I actually helped flesh out some of the parts of the world through fiction and a little bit of game design. It's a non D20, non 5e. It's its own system. It's really dark and sinister, very gothic fantasy. It's an awesome setting, and in fact, the gentleman who came up with it, Christopher Loizu, he has asked. We're working out the details here pretty soon. I'm actually going to do an entire episode dedicated to Cursed Empires. So talking Cursed Empires and talking about what's planned, what's coming, what kind of get people an idea of things, because he is shortly going to be starting up a small Kickstarter for a card game set in his role-playing world that was designed by yours truly. I had designed a card game. Well, I'll talk more about it on that episode, obviously. I had designed a card game for another concept. But it never came to fruition and never saw the light of day. So it just kind of sat in my computer, And Chris and I were talking about some other stuff. I've done a little more Curse and Empires writing in the meantime for his new 3rd edition of the role-playing game. And while we were talking, he had mentioned something about wanting to do a card game. And I was like, well, I happen to have one that might work. Let me take a look and see what we can do. And, long story short, he and his team have been, they bought the card game engine from me, and he and his team have been making it look pretty. So when I do the episode that's dedicated to Curse and Empires and the card game and all that narrative and everything, I should have some really cool stuff to show you as well. It sounds like he's going to get me some cards printed, and I'll be able to show you some cool art and stuff. So I'm excited. It is a very, very cool, unique world. It's harsh. It is a dark, gritty, sinister place to live. Is Thargos is the name of the place. So, there's that. I've got a card game coming out, but probably the two, aside from the Shadowrun novel, the two big things that have really kind of piqued, piqued my positivity. Sorry, my nose is just piqued my positivity in the last week or so. Is actually my relationship with Renegade Games through the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers role-playing game, plus some other licenses that we have that I am getting involved with through them. My relationship with... Excuse me. I'm going to take a drink of my orange juice. Oh, my throat got super dry all of a sudden. So my relationship with Renegade is really growing in a great way, and that's not me, saying anything or anything like that. I am really enjoying working for Elisa, and the lineup of licenses and things that they are wanting me to work with, it's growing. And not only is it growing in quantity, like the number of things they want me to do, but it's also growing in frankly in awesomeness. I know I can't talk a lot about it, but there are things even outside of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game that we're doing. There are things, there are licenses that are being acquired or that have already been acquired that a young Bryan or a younger Bryan or even a middle early middle-aged Bryan would have gone crazy to know that I would have access to work in these. So that's really starting to shine. Watch this space for more news on Renegade stuff, because I know right now, while we are really diving in and trying to finish this first book, Elisa and I are lining up a lot of other stuff that will be well worth talking about in the future. So expect more cool stuff from Renegade. And if you can, get on their mailer and watch for things. They do a lot of press releases. They have a really good marketing team. So follow them on Facebook, that kind of thing. They'll tell you all about all the cool stuff as it starts to happen. And then one of the other things that have really started to shine, and I know some of you watch this specifically for my Warzone content, and I know that I've had to be vague, which I wish I didn't have to be, and I'm going to be a little less vague here momentarily, but I will say this. One of the things that has happened in the last week is hidden in cyberspace, tucked away behind firewalls and privacy barriers. The official Resnova Games version of Warzone, which I don't know if I can say if I can say the name of it yet, so I'm not going to. I'm not going to reveal that until Alex says that I can. But the Resnova version of Warzone officially has the beginnings of a Facebook group page. Obviously, it's not open yet. It's not available for the public because there's really nothing on it. But I will say this: the new logo looks really cool at the top of the page. So that's I'm very excited. When I got the invite to the private page to take a look at it before, obviously it hasn't gone public yet. But when we got a chance to take a look at the private site and look at things and go, ooh, ah. One of the first things that drew my eye was the big banner across the top. And Alex and I, have since talked, and I dig it. I can't wait until we can start talking about it and get some of you guys over there to start, showing off your Warzone knowledge. And when we get closer to our ability to start showing off models and things, obviously it's going to appear over there. But I also just recently got the green light to write a bunch of Warzone fiction for the website, for press releases, for the book, for basically to help set the mood and the stage for Resnova's new Warzone. I have not started putting pen to paper yet on them, but I've got a bunch of ideas. Alex and I did some brainstorming of what I want to do and where I want to go with some of this stuff. It's very short story format, so you don't have to think about, oh, it's going to be a giant novel. No, they're going to be little lore bumps. The kind of thing that when you're reading a codex in 40K, or you're flipping through a White Wolf book, and you get that one page that's just a complete like splash story, stuff like that. I'm excited. I'm very excited to put some Warzone fiction down. I don't think that I have written any Warzone fiction since the late 90s, and that was for a magazine called Fictional Reality. Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a really, really long time. So I'm super excited about that because it'll also let us really set the mood for what our game is going to be. It'll give you these initial stories, these initial splat lore will give people an opportunity to kind of narratively see what we think a game is going to be, played as. So I'm excited. That's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that you guys are going to dig the hell out of it too. Alex and I have talked a great deal about kind of what next to do to get us closer to the Kickstarter, to get us closer to revealing more about the game, and really what it comes down to is we've got one more playtest pass that really needs to happen on the rule set. We're in a good place with it. We're happy with 85 to 90% of that rule structure is gold. We're fine. We're good with it. There's just that last 10, 15%, a couple of things here and there that might need tweaking, that might need changing, might need just rewording so it sounds better. So we need after making those adjustments, we need one last playtest pass of the rules before we dive in to the playtesting of the units themselves. Right now, the playtesters have a very extremely limited amount of units that they can playtest with. as things progress and we get closer to Kickstarter, closer to knowing what we're going to be able to launch with, that kind of thing, we'll have more and more of our units being able to be play tested. That way, everything should get a thorough play test before it ever sees the launch. Or before it ever, sees packaging or whatever. And then, of course, there's always the fabrication issue. Is we could playtest rules all day, every day for a year, but if we don't ever get models made and we don't ever get the new line produced, it's kind of a non-starter. It's sort of a we're putting out it's definitely putting the cart in front of the horse. In this case, it's putting the cart out in the street and leaving the horse at home, and then just hoping that nobody steals all of your merchandise out of the back of the wagon. So that's another thing that I know Alex is dealing with, is getting it to the point where we have, the production line is starting to be lined up, scheduled, and that it's a dependable source for us to continue making these models. I've been a busy little bee, making sure that I've designed as many guys as I think I can in these first handful of waves without starting to double up and starting to there's always a place, and a lot of you guys, former Warzone players, this is when you looked at your rosters toward the end of target games. Honestly, I can't say anything about Protoss because I didn't play that one, but I do know that looking at the rosters of models from Protoss, there was a lot of stuff there that seemed a little superfluous. And I think especially target games was notorious about it. There were 15 too many versions of the berets in Imperial. You had like not just trenchers, but you had trenchers and regulars, and the regular trenchers, and then the gray trenchers, or whatever. Like it got to the point where they were making so many rules for the same line of models that you could just kind of tell that they were doing the whole, hey, I've got a bunch of this model in the warehouse. I would love for you to have more ways to buy these and paint these. While I get it, and Res Nova is going to have a lot of models that can go back and forth, we want to also make sure that it's not a hamster wheel of redundancy. That it's not just, oh well, I found this website that had your guys' Blood Beret box on sale, so I bought 10 of them, and now I never have to buy another Imperial thing again. Nothing like that. We want the models to be different enough. We want them to have different bits and different guns and different looks and different poses and stuff, even if they are predominantly the same outfit, just painted differently. So you have to, there's, from a design standpoint, there are a bunch of units that I would not just say they're on the back burner. I would put them on the way back burner, because we have no need for them, because you've got two other units that do roughly the same thing. There's no reason to flood your faction with another version of the same guy. This guy does this, but he has a grenade. Oh, this guy does this, but he wears a blue hat. Come on. So what it's done is it's really let me focus on trying to make as many different types of units as I can. Then the problem slash the milestone that we have to take into consideration is that when we do design these new things and these new models, every single one of these is now another item in production. It's another SKU on the shelf. It's another set of packaging and whatnot that we have to get created. So there's a lot of logistics that go into making a miniature game, and I am confident that Res Nova is doing it the right way, and Alex specifically is giving me enough leeway that I'm doing a lot of the planning on what's coming out. As far as like, not necessarily like what, exactly, but I've got a good idea of this at this time. Let's do some squad guys and let's do some personal guys, and then maybe in a month later we'll do some more squad guys, that kind of thing. And it's let me really sort of flex my my design muscles, because it's putting me all over the place. And now it's just a matter of making sure that we can get all the models made and packaged and sold, but more importantly, making sure we can get them play tested in a relatively timely fashion, so that way we know that the things that are being created are actually going to see use. There is nothing that I hate more. I'll admit it, I watch a lot of videos from other people's reviews and things, and one of my favorite channels that I watch about 40K reviews, I'm not going to name drop them because I'm about ready to give one of their guys guff, is they have one of their talking heads is he's very bad about saying that I would never take this, I'll never take this unit is terrible, or I'll always take this, you have to take this is a must-have. And I've said this before, I hate those two things. I hate must-haves, and I hate never once. A never want means that it was designed poorly. Either other things are doing its job for it, or it costs too much, or it's too easy to kill, or the model's ugly, or whatever. Whatever reason, someone dropped the ball on that and made it so this is a product that we're spending money and time to create, that no one's going to actually spend money and time to buy and put on the table. So that's just a loss. And then the always haves, that's just a design platform that I just don't get. Why would you ever make something so good that every single army has to have it? You want to create stuff that it's tactical choices, that it's, I want to put this in my sideboard in case we're on a jungle board, or I want to put this in my my sideboard because I never know if I'm going to fight against somebody who has spells, who casts spells, but you don't want to basically say, never take that guy, he's only useful in a sewer map. No, you make it so he's really awesome in a sewer map, but at least he's useful off of it. So you put him in your sideboard in case you get a sewer map. That's exactly what it is. And I think combination of my feeling that my skills as a designer can help see that already, and knowing that Alex does not want us to completely flood every faction with here's 500 new units. I think we've got a nice pace, and it's a nice. It really will. I think for the Warzone players that are going to play the Resnova's as yet released named Warzone, I think that we're going to see a lot more people that pick up one or two different factions. And I say that because you're going to have enough room to grow between releases that you'll be able to basically have your own, your own yin and yang, as far as like, I'm going real heavy shooty bits with my capital force, and I go, I'm going all Wolfsbanes on my Imperials, things like that, or I'm going to grab a bunch of Brotherhood super guys to weigh out the fact that my Bauhaus force is grunt after grunt after grunt. So we'll see. But in the scheme of things, in the theme of today's episode, getting to know that we're making those steps and we're actually getting closer to the Kickstarter, closer to revealing more cool stuff for you guys to know and see. That's the stuff I live for as a designer. I love interaction with the fans, and whether it's a fan disagrees with something that because we showed our prototype model, and there were a handful of people that were like, ugh, I hate the way he's holding his gun, or ugh, I hate his leg armor, or whatever. That's fine. I still like to interact with you guys about that. Whether or not I think that you're right or wrong is irrelevant. It's still an interaction about something that we're creating. Obviously, my favorite interactions are when someone is like, oh my god, this is so cool, let's talk about how cool it is, because that's good for the ego. But it's why I've got to say that the even though it's still private because there's nothing on there yet, the private Facebook page and the kind of the verified release wave structure for fabrication, and getting into these kind of final playtest waves, that's a huge up for me. Not even necessarily like a giant like financial windfall or anything like that, knowing all the other stuff that's going on in my life. It's just a positive awesomeness, knowing that our version of Warzone is that much closer to being out in a reality. I mean, in theory, I have no idea how long it'll be before people will actually start getting a chance to play. But the fact that I know that we're getting closer for them to be able to start talking about it, to start discussing what we're doing, looking at models, looking at 3D prototypes, things like that, reading stories, that's what I can't wait for, and I'm jazzed about it. Throw that in with the fact that, like I said, my relationship with Renegade is growing by leaps and bounds, and the licenses that we're getting attached to is staggering. I don't know what else to say. It's, if I focused on the downs, it's real easy to get depressed. It's real easy to fall into that dark place and be like, oh gosh, how am I ever going to claw my way back up? Honestly, it is things like what's going on with Warzone and Resnova and Renegade and Shadowrun that is really just not only keeping me afloat, making me look forward to the rest of the year. Like, big plus. And then on top of that, I just saw the clock. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up. I also want to take 1 second to get a little political. Earlier this week, the 46th President of the United States was sworn into office. Thankfully, without drama, without idiots trying to storm the Capitol as they did the week before, or 2 weeks before. The former holder of office, 45, in his perfectly cowardly way, didn't even show up to the inauguration, him or his wife. Way to be a sore loser. He would be a very bad gamer. And honestly, I think that may have been for the best, because I'm not sure he wouldn't have made a scene. I'm not sure he wouldn't have tried to make it about him instead of about the fact that 4 years of his lies and mistakes are over. We still have a lot of work to do. Still have a lot of sweeping up. But President Biden and Vice President Harris, I think, are going to... I think they're going to hit the ground running. They know there's a lot of work to be done. And for the first time in 4 years, I actually feel just a little tiny spark of pride for what's happening in the White House. Just a tiny little bit. I'm not big. in. I'm not a huge supporter of our system, but knowing the damage that has been done and the travesties that came out of that Oval Office for the last 4 years and the awful cult of personality that he created, knowing that we're at least in a position to start taking steps to hopefully heal, to hopefully undo the damage that was done. For the people who watch this outside of America, I apologize for what my country has been saddled with for the last 4 years, and I hope that at least the next 4, possibly more, turns a lot of that around and maybe makes the world a little better place, and most importantly, doesn't try to burn every bridge or mock what they don't understand, or just simply lie to cover up for things that are stupid to lie about. All things, basically what I'm saying here is, I'm sorry for the toddler that was in control for 4 years, but as of just a couple days ago, we don't have to worry about that anymore. Now we just have to fix things that had happened, lay the groundwork to repair, and really try and bring ourselves up to a better place and be honest with ourselves about all the stuff that, all the negative baggage that we have. Really, it's time to pick it up and stop hiding it and fix it. All right, enough of that. Enough of all that politicking. Let's get back to games. So, like I said, ups and downs. The inauguration was a big up for me. I may have wept a little, just a little. But all in all, even if your dogs are sick, the hospitals come calling for bills, your car blows up, and your roof is leaking into your pantry, you really have to still try and keep a brave face. Don't let that darkness consume you. Even if it means taking on some extra responsibilities just for fun, or taking a few extra minutes a day to do something for no other's sake than, I want to get it done. I want to make it happen. And if that's the case, if you can keep your sanity and keep things going the right way, then you're doing it. Then you're getting by better than some, and hopefully you'll be able to keep that positivity and keep the ups as more important than the downs. Keep that scale tipped, because that's really what it takes. So until next week, drop me some comments, like, share, subscribe, share again, tell your mom. Go ahead and visit the websites that I got in the description, and be safe, wear a mask, stay healthy, but do me a favor and play some games. See you next week.